Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with me, Christian Harris. Today I'm joined by Alex Dali, who is a really experienced risk management professional, been working in the field for 25 years, and is a true expert in the ISO 31000 standard. We're going to go through some of the background as to why risk management is important, some of the perceptions around risk management, and give you a framework, a blueprint for how to make better risk decisions, as well as speaking about what the benefits are of doing all of that as well. And as you'll hear at the end of the conversation, Alex is running a course in London all about this at the end of September, and there's a special offer deal available for you as a podcast audience member to take part in that course too. Hope you enjoy this episode with myself and Alex Dali, all around a blueprint for better risk decisions. Cheers.
Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with Christian Harris. We believe that proactive safety and risk management powers business performance. Each week we explore this theme, sharing guests, stories, insights, trends, hints and tips. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, and video versions are available on YouTube. But for now, let's join the conversation with Christian.
Well, thank you all for joining me and my special guest today for this Safety Roundtable session, all about better risk decisions and how we can go about doing that. As always with the Safety Roundtable, really encourage interactivity. So there'll be time for you to ask questions to myself and Alex, who I'll introduce in a second. And do get involved. It's a topic that, as we'll hear, I think relates to everybody. So fire away with the questions and let's make it as interactive as we can. So I'm delighted today to be joined by Alex Dali. He is a globally respected voice in the world of risk management. He's the president and founder of the G31000 Risk Institute, which is an organization dedicated to advancing the understanding and application of ISO 31000, which is the international benchmark for risk management. Alex has worked in the field of risk for over 25 years, including in industries such as energy, infrastructure, finance, and public governance. And he's helped tons and tons of organizations, as I'm sure we'll hear about in a minute, to integrate risk thinking into strategic decision-making. Today, he's going to share how this approach can help safety professionals move from static procedures to dynamic, objective-driven risk decisions that save lives and support operational excellence. And his group, his ISO 31000 LinkedIn discussion group, has over 100,000 members. So if this topic is of interest to you, give Alex a follow, obviously, but definitely get involved in the group, and I'll see you in there posting and getting involved in the discussion. So thanks for joining today, Alex. Let's start off with, I know you've got a few slides. What does better risk decision making really mean, and why do many, if not most, organizations struggle with it?
Okay, thank you, Chris, for this nice introduction. It's a real pleasure, to join this safety roundtable, and I mean your effort, to basically push forward, the safety, have been recognized, and so now basically we are basically as an institute, the G31000 Risk Institute have been created in 2012. So it has been already more than a decade that we have pushed ISO 31000 worldwide, and today it has been adopted by 82 countries in the world. So let me show you in one slide, basically here, what is the philosophy of ISO 31000 and risk management view by this standard. As you can see, risk and objective are in the center. So definitely it's very strong link between risk and objective. We basically link objective, of course, with decision making. And of course, since we talk about decision and objective to achieve, is that something in the future? It's uncertain.
Hmm.
And basically, we can see here that we make it risk management close to managers making decision under uncertainty. We have basically move away from risk being an event to
Yeah.
basically risk being associated with decision making. That's basically the main idea here.
Okay. Fantastic. And I guess that's also about then moving beyond compliance and just having the documents in place to become more strategic and a strategic decision-making tool. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So what we see today, I mean, it has been like this for many years, but it's still very strongly linked that what we consider is not risk management, and basically it's influenced strongly by regulators, audit, compliance, which give a misconception about risk management. And basically, what is here shown in this slide is basically tools, techniques to support risk management, but this is not the core purpose of risk management. And what we have seen in the previous slide, and that's what basically we are here promoting. In this picture, we basically show, maybe a little bit from uh, just to see the two world, in fact,
Yeah.
where it's linked to compliance, reporting, policies, risk register, and below, basically, we show people interacting, where risk is embedded in strategy, operation, planning. It's linked to uncertainty, linked to the objectives, the context, internal or external context. And then you can see still on the table, we see the guy with his hand crossed,
Yeah.
which is the one focusing on compliance because it is still there. And we can hear sometimes some risk professionals said, no, risk management is about compliance, get rid of this. Absolutely not. It's you have to follow the regulation.
Yeah.
But as a risk manager, you have to spend the minimum time on compliance and reporting. That's basically the idea, so that you can focus on helping managers to make decision under uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah. Had a good chat recently with Ben Cooney on the podcast, who's a risk management professional.
Mhm.
And he was kind of echoing those points. So definitely a theme that's coming through um, consistently and nicely, and definitely getting away from, you know, compliance is never enough. Got to get away from that mindset that compliance
Yeah.
is enough. Yeah. So it's probably worth kind of understanding and defining the word risk because it can mean different things to different people. So if we're looking to make better risk decisions, how do we explain that concept of risk?
Yes, that's very important question basically, and this is where ISO 2000 introduced a new definition of risk. So traditionally, as said before, we see risk as an event associated with a probability and a consequence. So
Yeah,
an event like fire, data breach, falling from the high, etc. And basically, then sometimes people say, oh, this event will affect my objective linked to safety. So I'm still fine with this definition. But in fact, it's here we change the mindset. We move from thinking about a static list of bad things that might happen to a more dynamic relationship between uncertainty and what we are trying to achieve as objective. So rather asking what could go wrong, you should basically say, what do you try to achieve? What is your objective? What can you prevent to achieve this objective? So basically, whatever you talk about risk management, you have to always come back to this concept of objective, and this
Yeah.
is what people, prefer to hear, and then they will, be convinced that since you want to talk to buy objectives, they are more open. While
Yeah.
risk is still seen as a negative word. I mean, even to the extent, to my clients, I said, don't even use the word risk at all. you know, because still risk, is defined, and the people have their own view, definition, and experience with this word is and it's overall negative.
Yeah, yeah. I often say as well, don't use the word safety. If you're
Oh,
doing a walk around, don't call it a safety walk around because there's a sort of negative connotation that sometimes people can have if you bolt on the word safety to something else.
yeah.
So clearly safety, risk, these are all massively important things, but we need to carefully consider how we talk about them, how we introduce them, et cetera, et cetera. So in
Yeah.
terms of that positive versus negative, yeah. So, there's often this perception about safety and risk being negative things. How would you kind of overcome that perception?
So that's a very important question, and especially in the safety world, I would say, where risk is seen as harm, injuries, fatalities, damage to the environment, legal consequence, when in fact the purpose protect people and operation. So when ISO 17000 define risk as effect of uncertain objective, we look at the effect positive, negative, but also positive in the sense that there are many aspects of safety which can be seen positively.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, for example, you have a new safety technology that might create uncertainty. So this safety technology might fail, but it might save life.
Hmm.
For example, drones, and
Yeah.
we hear drones all the time. In the past, we used to send a person to intervene in a confined space. Maybe there's toxic gas around. So if you can send a drone to basically, and repair things or intervene or paint, basically that will definitely benefit, people
Hmm.
in safety, clearly, right?
And it's
So
probably cheaper and more efficient and faster, so it benefits the organization in other ways too.
yeah, exactly. So that this dual nature of risk is fundamental, and in safety, basically, if you link safety to improving work or learn from experience, sharing lesson, with so that a similar accident or incident does not happen. So it is there, this concept about positive consequence in safety, but
Yeah.
but you need to think about it. It doesn't come naturally, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've spoken there about, and it's in the slide as well, about objectives.
Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is that you should always kind of have an objective in mind. You should always refer risk to an objective. Is that something that we can always do or not?
Well, indeed, yes, you have to make it always link risk with objectives. This is a core principle of ISO 20000.
Okay.
Risk doesn't exist in the vacuum. It's only exists in relation to objective. And when I see many sometimes risk register, I don't see the link to objective. Or it is vague, unclear. And that's why I want to basically mention to you, this concept about smart objective. This objective should not be vague, should be specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound. And
Hmm.
that's very much important because if you say, okay, my objective is to improve safety, how can you do a risk assessment on this sentence, on this objective? It's not clear at all, you
Mm.
know. I mean, you might say, okay, what shall I say? Well, you can say reduce fall from high incident by 20% in the next 6 months. So reduce, so it's very specific, the
Yep.
time of event, or you know that we are talking about. Is it measurable? Yes, we
Hmm.
mentioned 20%. Actionable? Definitely, I will put, a plan in place to avoid this kind of situation. Is it relevant? Of course. And time bound? We said within 6 months. So extremely important to have smart objective, as said before, e- even when before, starting risk assessment.
Right. But that means then that there's always a degree of uncertainty, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is quite important that this uncertainty, can be linked to objective. Yeah, I mean we
Hmm.
mentioned it. Something the future, of course, is uncertain. Decision, is it the right decision? That you are taking. The context that the internal or external context might also change, and something about the future. And here in this slide, what I do here is I give you a list of cause associated to uncertainty. And you see it's got a lot of aspects that could be uncertain, and you can read by yourself, but it's a lot of things that I'm sure you have been confronted to.
Yeah.
You have priorities which might be in conflict. So we talk about objective, but so objective might be in conflict as well.
Yeah.
So, or the authority, who is in charge? You know, if it's not clear, again, it's uncertainty. What about the competence? Or basically a procedure or the data, that you are using. Are they relevant? Are they updated? Of about what you want to measure, etc. So this concept of uncertainty is clearly very important. We mentioned about risk. We mentioned about objective. So uncertainty of objective. So the effect of uncertainty on objective is called risk. So now we have basically the three key words together.
Yeah. Yeah. So risk is, yeah, the effect of uncertainty on an objective. Okay. So is that something then that we can use in all different scenarios or for all types of risks, that particular definition?
Oh, so that's an interesting question. In fact, this is the slides that have been used, I would say, when was this? In 2004,
Okay.
when ISO basically decided that what it shows in this diagram basically is that there are a lot of standards that refer to risk.
Yeah.
You know, and this can be in different sectors, in different industry, different type of risk can be linked to quality, environment, health and safety, information security, etc. So at ISO, they realize there is no guidance on which every ISO standard can refer to regarding the management of risk. And that's how it came the idea to have a guidance standard for all ISO standard or non-ISO standard. So, um, and this is a slide that I like to show during our course, is to basically this word risk is called non-conformity in
Hmm.
the quality world. For the environment, what is the risk is pollution. Health and safety is injury, death, sickness. Energy is the cost. In data breach, you can see all these kind of words is exactly what we are talking about. It's a word risk, you know. So and that's what is now mandated within ISO. It's called Annex SL. That
Yeah.
every ISO management system have to bring this concept about risk-based thinking. That they have to embed risk in all standards, and that's what basically have been happening in the last couple of years.
Right. Okay. So lots and lots going on. I suppose I mean, if I think about what I do, it's almost never happens that I go into an organization and they're doing nothing in the area that I specialize in terms of slip safety. They're always doing something. There's lots and lots of activities going on. So I
Mhm.
suppose for somebody listening to us or joining us today, thinking, oh, well, we're already doing, we've already got procedures, tools, systems, we're managing all sorts of these risks. So what should they do in that context? Is this relevant to them in spite of the fact that they're already doing quite a lot of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. This is in most companies, they have procedures, methodology for these specialized type of risk. So basically, I mean, you don't get rid of everything you have been doing, of course not, but you have to see basically ISO 17000 as some kind of toolbox
Yeah.
where you basically standardize, classify, and rationalize, the management of risk, so that you can keep your existing tools, but within a common framework. And ISO 17000, present, principle, framework, and process for all type of risk. And you can basically integrate all these tools, method, procedures, which minimum change usually most of the time.
Yeah, makes good sense. I got a question here in the chat, Alex, which is:
Yes.
are there still any ISO standards where the definition is different to the current risk definition?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you have to think about where ISO is coming from. They had 400 definition, in 2004. So that was a huge chaos. And of course, it needs time, to basically convince everyone to refer to one specific definition. So this 400 came down to like 100. And then
Yeah.
the famous Annex SL that I mentioned to you, which mandate every management system to refer to the management of risk, basically define risk on its own, so
Hmm.
that for those who want to redefine risk, they have now a clear reference. But definitely, ISO have been pushing. Today, we are around 25, 30 definitions.
Okay.
And, well, take time, that
Yeah.
standards usually are review every 5 years, but for others, it can be up to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, it's interesting. I mean, it's not dissimilar to safety. Safety could mean something different to you than it could mean to me. And I suppose
Yeah.
it's going to be difficult to find one single definition
Yeah.
that would tick every single box. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
S- So, certainly in the world of safety, and I'm sure in the world of risk management as well, we hear this phrase of, it's everyone's responsibility. What's your take on that? How do you sort of explain that?
Okay, that's also a very interesting questions, and we can come back when we said everyone is involved in the management of risk. Because then usually we refer to this definition about risk owner, and then let's have a close look to what ISO is coming with the definition: a person or entity with accountability and authority to manage a specific risk. So for basically the safety manager is there to manage the risk associated to safety, if you like. So he's a risk owner, but another manager who is in charge of operation, he might also is a risk owner, and among his different objectives, clearly safety is one of them. So
Yeah.
he's also a risk owner. Now, there is a nice subtlety, because English is a very rich language. So there is a clear difference in English about accountability, responsibility, and liability.
Yeah.
And you can see here, we talk about risk owner is accountable. Now, if I speak French, what's the translation of this is responsable.
Yeah.
Accountability will be responsable, and liability will be responsable. One word. So that's why basically ISO had difficulty to translate, this word, and it has never been translated exactly because of this situation. But accountability is very clear. I mean, I put in bracket, a person to blame if the job is not done, but he's not responsible. This is something that we hear very often. The risk owner is responsible. He might not be. If he's not doing the job himself, he's accountable, yes. It could be responsible and could be also liable, if we, in some cases, So, but now there is another thing that I want to show you is about risk owner. When we say accountable, what does it mean in practice? And that's something which is in the standard ISO 20000, but it is not explained clearly, if you like, So to be accountable, a risk owner have to have 3 criteria. And if one of them is missing, you cannot be the risk owner. So you must have the authority, the resource, and the competence together, So this is quite important. And I'm sure you have seen in your career people who are in charge of a particular sector or activity, but he doesn't have the resources,
That happens a lot in the world of safety. Many safety managers and leaders don't have a specific budget. They have to ask someone else to spend the money.
Exactly. And you can see with this definition, you cannot truly say he is accountable, for safety if he doesn't have the resources.
Yeah.
So he might be accountable for some type of safety. Let's say he has a budget for, I don't know, fire extinguisher or alarms, etc. But as soon as we talk about sprinkler, for example, for fire protection, of course he doesn't have the resources. So he will not be the person accountable for a sprinkler system which is put in the whole factory, if you like.
Carsten, you've got a question. Do you want to come and say hello? Remember to unmute.
Sorry.
Hello?
That's the risk of being in a webinar.
Yes, yes, nice one.
Good to see you, Alex, in person. Perhaps you're coming to the last part, the competence, because there I struggle because many managers are risk owners, and they're definitely not competent.
Yeah, that's a good point. So basically, when we talk about competence, what we see this as, does this person have the skills, the knowledge, the mindset for the specific risk he's supposed to manage? And if not, the standard is said you need training or support it. So you might, maybe yourself, you don't have the competence, but you have someone who has, and you work closely with him. Still, you are accountable, but you can rely on someone. But definitely, this is one of the reasons where you can also, for yourself, request a budget to be trained so that you are fully aware of the type of risk that you need to manage. I mean, I just give this example because I remember in a company, a person was in charge of safety, and I was doing an audit in a factory, and for insurance, so we do this inspection, and we wanted to go to see the cabinet where the transformers are located. And basically, he said he cannot enter the room.
Right.
Then basically, I said, why? Because I'm not habilitated to enter. But maybe you should, you're in charge of safety, So this is a clear example where he didn't get, the training and the authorization to enter this room, but it's still, if something happened to this transformer, when a person intervene, he will be involved because that might create a safety issue when a person enter. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. 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 And I think you had another good example from a construction setting. Is that right?
Uh,
When we spoke
Carson,
before?
who have this another example?
I thought it did. I think you said you had an example of maybe something about someone on a construction site, a director
Yes, yes.
talking about on a construction site and how that's an example of losing that accountability.
Yeah, exactly. So, Carlson, may I challenge you? Do you see anything wrong in this picture?
Well,
Well, can be for anyone.
yeah.
So we see,
I
No.
have a similar picture where the former Prime Minister of Norway is dressed in a lot of safety gear, and then she has slippers on.
okay.
Someone in the
And
chat says no PPE.
yeah, exactly. This is the point. So what we see in this, so it is clearly a construction site, and clearly there is a rule for safety where helmets and safety shoes are mandatory for everyone. And here we have a scenario where a company director want to speak with the workers only 5 minutes, and the safety manager insists on PPE compliance, but the director basically said, no, it's only 5 minutes, and he overruled, right? So when the director overruled, what happened to the risk owner for safety, which is he lost accountability. He
Yeah.
cannot be the one to be accountable if something happened.
Yeah.
That's basically what it's saying is. And what I see more and more in companies, there are some kind of risk management software where when a person feel he doesn't have the competence or the resources or the authority because there are two persons in charge of something, basically they key in and they said, I don't have the authority on this. And what it does in the software, it goes up. And this is what we see in the escalation process, where you lose authorities, the resource or the competence, automatically, it goes up. And who will be the new risk owner? Probably the boss of the one who was below. And of course,
Yeah.
he's not happy to have an additional, risk, to manage, and he will make all the efforts so that the person down get back the authority, resource, and competence. And if there is a confused authority, he will make it clear. This is you are the person in charge, and the other guy is in charge of something else, for example. You see?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. A constant battle to get that right, I'm sure. So obviously we know that risk management as a concept should kind of create this environment where managers make better risk decisions. So what are the kind of key foundations, the key building blocks of risk management, the principles, I suppose, of risk management?
Yeah, this is what ISO 17000 come with: a strong principle and a very clear purpose of risk management. So what we call the foundation are these principles, and the purpose of risk management should be protect value, of course, but also create value. And we see here again, this positive consequence that we refer earlier. So then we have this 8 principles that are considered the foundation, and we can see here the keywords. Risk management should be integrated. When we say integrate into all operation and activities. Risk management should be structured and comprehensive. clearly ISO 3000 is structured, and comprehensive. It should cover all type of risk that facing the company. When we said customize, of course, it need to be customized to the sector, the industry, to the person in charge, to the resources available, to the context. A lot of customization is needed. Inclusive, you need to involve all stakeholders. Dynamic, of course, risk change, people change, the context change, must be dynamic. When you see a risk register, fix and update once a year, it's nonsense. It's not dynamic at all. So based on best available information, take into account human and culture factor, very important as well. And of course, this continual improvement, then we see back of those who are familiar with ISO management system. You have the Deming wheel, the plan, do, check, act, which is iterative for continual improvement. So it is there also embedded in this principle.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I'm a big fan of models and frameworks and all of that good stuff. I find it brings things to life and makes things possible for people to implement. So how would you kind of go about, using those principles?
Well, here basically it's an example of safety policy. I took one that I've seen in organization. So our organization is committed to maintain a safe workplace by following legal requirement, using protective equipment, those PPE, and reporting incident. All employees are required to follow safety procedure. So this was an existing, safety policy, and it was very short. Now, if we go back to our list of principle and the core purpose of risk management, does this policy reflect the purpose and principle? Well, we make a clear here analysis, with value creation, protection. So value creation, we don't see any positive consequence on this, only value protection, but to a certain extent, because safety is not only to protect, employees, it's also protect assets in the environment and the society as a whole, if you like. Decision making is absolutely not mentioned in this safety policy. And then when we look at the different principle, integrate, not so clear. Structure definitely not mentioned at all. It could basically suggest a certain type of risk assessment method, for example. Basically, we make a quick analysis, and you can see this is not a good safety policy. It might look good from the outside, but from a clear, safety policy that everyone will understand, and based on ISO 3000, it falls short, if you like.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's a well-meaning statement, but pretty lacking in terms of the principles that you outlined. Just a quick question from someone in the chat, Alex. Where does risk tolerance fit in to this piece?
Okay. There is this concept about risk tolerance, risk criteria, risk appetite. These three words are closely related. First, let me comment on risk appetite. So when I was basically representing France in the ISO TC 262, which is the international committee in charge of risk management, we had people from safety there. And I remember clearly when we were talking about risk appetite, the person, with working in safety, banged the table and was very angry and said, I don't want to hear this word risk appetite. We have no appetite for death or injury, or disease at the workplace. So it is not mentioned in ISO 13000, So ISO basically said the top management should define the amount of level of risk that the organization is ready to take. It closely linked with the concept of risk appetite, if you like, So it doesn't use the term, but clearly it said the top management should define, what the organization is ready to take, and then give a guidance for risk criteria. And this is where risk tolerance that you mentioned is clearly linked. Risk tolerance and risk criteria is very closely linked. This risk tolerance / risk criteria will be in the process. This is where when a manager make a decision, when he make a risk assessment, and then he realize, okay, this is the level of risk that I'm facing, and then he need to compare this amount to his reference. Is it for him? Don't forget, he's accountable for this type of risk. Is it too much for him? Risk tolerance, if he'd say no, then you have to go and treat it, if you like. And if yes, then fine, he can maybe live with it. Still, he can reduce it if he wish, but it might not be the top priority. Yeah, does it? So you see, risk appetite is in the framework. I mean, let me show you the next slide is this one. So the risk appetite is in the framework, which is linked for the whole organization. And then you have the risk management process, where the owner, will start to identify, analyze, evaluate, and treat a particular type of risk on which he's in charge. And this is where risk tolerance, risk criteria will come in play.
Okay. And these three pillars, if that's the right word, that this is where we're starting to implement. So we've got that framework, and then this is how we go about putting it into place. Is that right?
Yeah, that's very important, because we can see in many organizations, but this is influenced by actually in UK, you have the Institute of Risk Management, which usually restrict risk management to the risk management process. And then start, to work and talk about governance, so that the risk management process can work. But basically, in ISO, it says there are principles, that there are things that you need to put in place at the organization level, and then only you can start the risk management process. So don't restrict risk management to only the risk management process, because you have not defined who is in charge, how do you are going to link, decision-making process and risk. You have not clearly explained. You might have objectives which are in conflict. So you need to clearly define in the framework leadership, commitment, integration, design, how you implement, how you are going to improve the whole architecture or program of risk management for the whole company before individual risk owner use the risk management process, so that he can use it for risk-based decision making.
Yeah, what I like about this is you're working the way systematically through. There's a lot of clarity, isn't there? So, you're having to think things through correctly, and then there shouldn't be that sort of fluffiness or confusion or whatever it might be. So yeah, it seems very logical and sensible, which is good. We've got Bogdan with your hand up. Do you want to come and ask a question? Raise the hand. Oh, we can't hear you. No, struggling. Do you want to type it in the chat instead if we can't get the mic to work? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, just type it in the chat if you like. In the meantime, Alex,
Yeah.
so that's great. So it's a really good framework. We've covered lots of valuable insights so far. So talk a bit about where people can start on this journey, where they can get their certification, and tell us about the event, the course that you are running in London soon.
Yeah, basically we have what you have basically to see is with this course we are moving from this what we call here traditional risk management. We'll focus on asset only, possibility of loss, looking at accident loss, to what is called ERM, enterprise-wide risk management, where and this is a shift that many organizations claim to do, and sometimes force in bracket, by regulation. But many organizations still today do not fully understand what it means, ERM. And I would strongly advise those that are pushing for ERM to have a strong foundation for the enterprise risk management, and ISO 27000 is an ideal, reference.
Yeah,
So definitely what we do is so don't forget, ISO 27000 is a guidance standard for uh, risk management. So what we do is to certify individuals. So we are not here to certify the company, we certify individuals because it's a guidance standard. So what we go through during the course is the content of ISO 27000 and look at, in detail what is written in the standard, principle, framework, and process. We go chapter by chapters, clause by clause, sentence by sentence, sometimes word by word, because there are a lot of aspects which are hidden and not explicit in this standard. And definitely what we certify is a person as in-depth knowledge of the content of ISO 27000. So
right.
that's
Okay.
what
Yeah.
we do. And I'm glad we have partnered with you, Aris, to have this course to bring to London again. We have done it in many countries, in the last 10 years. But the one that we are considering now is London, that will be in September. And this will be an exceptional event because those who are attending could not only get the certification on ISO 27000, but to take a special exam for trainers. So if for your career you think that it might be good, for yourself to become also a trainer, you could take the special exam for trainers. And Christian has negotiated with us basically to access his network, and we are proposing a very strong discount on this. And yeah, I mean, altogether, if you register before early bird, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, no, you definitely giving us a good deal here. So do jump on. Someone's just asked actually, Lisa asked, is the course available online as well at all?
Yeah, the course, we have tried to have it online, and it was a couple of years ago, and it was only in India. But the result was a total deception because the exam result was extremely poor. So basically, online, we could not see if people understand. And if you go away 10 minutes and come back, maybe you miss the parts that explain, what we were talking about when you come back. So definitely, our trainers look, to every individual, and as soon as there is a person who do not understand a particular concept, then we bring an example so that he can join the rest of the group and understanding, and then we move forward together. So
Yeah.
nobody is left behind because of they did not understand a particular concept quickly.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think still in person is preferred for us, but we are still consider, to have this online one day, but it has been much better than only showing, a PowerPoint and expect people to
Yeah.
follow. It,
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
Lisa, I won't feel too sorry for Lisa because she lives in a very lovely part of the world, but she's on the other side of the world to London. So I think getting to London for her might be a bit difficult, but for others, then definitely do encourage. It's the 24th, 25th, 26th of September, with the exam taking place on the 26th.
Yeah.
And if you sign up, there's a link which is on the screen, and when this goes out on the podcast, it'll be in the show notes where you can basically get a 30% off discount. So very generously offered by Alex. And Alex, you'll be there yourself. Is that right? You'll be doing some of the tutoring.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, every trainers in our network have been trained by me because the idea is to have a clear consistency worldwide. Because this course is proposed, in many countries, actually in 7 languages, and this exam is also considered as a national exam in Brazil, in Russia. In South Africa, it is mandatory in the public sector. So basically, we have quite a strong recognition. Yeah, and then you can see how our strength in the linking group, which has more than 100,000, members. So
Yeah,
in risk management, we are probably in the top 4 group, for the risk management,
yeah,
so which is showing a very strong
yeah, yeah,
strength on this.
yeah. Should we try again?
Can you hear me,
we,
guys?
there we go.
Yes,
All right.
Bogdan.
There was a little bit of a risk with the microphone. I got 2 different microphones, and unfortunately, to get the one to work is just another risk. Anyway, thanks very much for the presentation. I just wanted kind of to complement the information, Alex. I mean, I do appreciate the standard itself because it helps organizations to kind of standardize as much as possible understanding on risk.
Yeah.
Because I think it brings clarity, as Christian says, but you and I probably know no single organization has a very good standard understanding across on how to deal with risk. And then there is this mystification of saying that whoever owns the risk is a problem. No, it's not a problem. I mean, one of the big wins of the standard itself is that you learn how to transform a risk into opportunity. So I think everyone here probably knows it, and that's the way I try to convey the message across my organization, that owning risk is an opportunity. It's something that you have to transform it into an opportunity. That opportunity may well materialize in investment to add value for the business, or could be basically whatever other potential opportunity it brings. But what I like from the perspective, yes, the positive impact, of course, and that's what I think the standardization of knowledge about across the organization is relevant when understanding the ISO 31000. We implemented it right now as a framework, but we will probably get, I would say, to a fair level of understanding risk across all our departments probably in 2 years' time. I'm not rushing. I'm not rushing, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is very important for our course also. The message is often to say you need to turn negative consequence of a particular risk into a positive aspect, and any type of risk, any kind of issue that might impact your objective, you need to turn it into something positive.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You need to force yourself, but definitely, for example, let's take an example, because one guy basically during the course said, well, our factory totally burned down, and fortunately no one got injured, but we lost all the machine, equipment, A lot of people are out of work. What do you see positive in this? He was challenging me on this. And what basically I was explaining is, okay, you will have, it's probably covered by insurance. A new building will be basically built. It will be more better designed in terms of logistic, in terms of in, out, production, layout, storage, etc. You might have a better lighting, or the ventilation will be probably better, So a lot of things that was not working in the environment on where you were working will probably have the chance to be rethink,
Yeah.
So this kind of aspect, and that's where you can look at the positive consequence of this. But
that's the culture that many of us have to kind of fight inside organizations, and how you level up the way that having risk is part of the business, transforming that risk into opportunities is a real value by managers and risk owners. But it takes time. I think I appreciate you offering the course. By the way, what's the value of the training? Because I don't have access to the link yet. The cost of the course.
The cost, well, it is there on the website. I think it is in pound. I think it's 2,400 pound.
All right.
That is the full price.
Yeah. No, that's fine, because it includes the test.
Yeah, includes the test, and you will get the result on the third day. Half an hour after the exam, you get the result, and we sit together and review, how you did.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great. I mean, Christian, please share the information with us when possible, please.
Yeah, we will. We'll be sending it around. Don't worry, it'll be sent around to everybody. And yeah, it'd be great to see lots of people getting involved.
What we see also, if I might add, is many people who attend our course will know exactly what to do in the company when they come back from day one. So basically, many of the participants have, in different degree, concept and knowledge in risk management, and usually it's in pieces. So you have project risk management, safety risk management, security risk management, financial risk management, and so all of these aspects, have different pieces. And what it does with this course, you can clearly put the piece together, and I can probably bring you an example, whatever the sector you are coming from, because that's very important for me as a trainer, to bring an example in your field if there is a particular concept that you don't understand, So
yeah,
and and I mean, I have enough experience, and I think I've been training, in the organization like more than 20 years, so I've a lot of example to share with you.
Good stuff. Great. Well, look, we're coming up to time, so thank you so much, Alex, for joining me today and for sharing all of those great insights and the frameworks and different ways of thinking. Very, very valuable stuff. And yeah, I'd really encourage people to get involved in the course at the end of September here in London, and take advantage of the special offer that Alex has generously given to us all as well. So yeah, thank you for joining Alex and I, and thanks to you, Alex, for your time today.
Well, thank you, Chris, for this opportunity, and I'm glad, to meet all of you, in London, in like 2 months' time. Yeah, now.
Perfect. All right. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us on the Safety and Risk Success podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit follow and do share on social media. Does anyone you know spring to mind as a great guest, even yourself? If so, please contact us on podcast@slipsafety.co.uk. See you next week for another episode.